Today, I want to talk to you about how to recruit a high-level VA. Okay, so it's a beautiful Wednesday morning. It's really quite warm actually. For 9 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it is, and it's about 21, 22 degrees. A little bit breezy, but nice. Anyway, Wednesdays are always business systems and business systems and outsourcing. And what I want to talk to you today is something that a lot of people kind of ask about. A lot of people will have negative experiences with virtual assistants, and I hate calling them virtual assistants because people associate a virtual assistant with low-level administration and that side of things. Well, I can tell you now, if you recruit the right caliber of virtual assistant, they're just as good as anybody you recruit in the UK, and in my experience, often better. I don't want to be overly generalised in that statement, but it's just my experience. So I like to refer to them more as remote workers, but I can't obviously stop people using that term, virtual assistant, so we'll stick with that for the sake of this episode. And what I want to talk to you about is what do people generally do when they recruit a virtual assistant? I'm just running past some people, so I'll just say my hellos before we continue. So give me a second. Morning. And so what do people do when they first want a virtual assistant? They'll go to websites like Fiverr or Upwork, simply where you can get pay-as-you-go help. And okay, it's got its place, and there are some really quality people on those sites, but there are also a lot of very substandard resource on those websites. And the key is how you can bring somebody in to a high level. Now, I talk a lot about blame yourself first, and how you need to give the right instruction and clarity when you delegate tasks and outsource work. And I stand by that. But it makes it a whole lot harder if you're bringing somebody in who's not the required level of the role. Now, again, there's a contradiction here in you look at things like the EMIS process, and where people say you have robust systems, basically you can stick anybody operating them and the business will still go forward, similar to the McDonald's model. They use a lot of teenage school leavers, etc. in their workforce. Not just that, but they have such robust systems, they can almost drop anybody in and it doesn't make a difference to their machine. However, most small businesses that don't have that systemization to that degree, often require decent people to certainly help them grow and build a business. So there is a little bit of a caveat to that statement. So what happens? Well, firstly, I always strongly recommend that you look at your financial situation and see whether you can afford a virtual assistant. And there's some calculating stuff I've got that I will eventually put in the free resources section to allow you to work that out, of whether you can afford a virtual assistant and how many hours you can afford based on linked to your income and all that side of things. So it's really quite a cool way to get some clarity of when you're ready to bring in your first remote worker. As I said, you can pay anybody between £2.50 and £4.50 an hour as a standard. So it's not going to break the bank balance. You don't have to take them on as full time. I've just recently taken on 2 outstanding candidates come through the process, and it was one 40-hour-a-week role, but I couldn't split them, so I took them both on 20 hours with the view that when we hit a certain income threshold, I'll take them both on full time. So the only caveat to bringing people on part time is that you will ultimately have they might need to find work elsewhere, and if that happens, they're going to have not a conflict of interest, but could be a conflict of interest when you've got two different bosses asking to do work, and it's how do they prioritise that workload. So try and avoid it if you can, but if you have to, then just manage that as best you can. So how do you get high-level virtual assistants? And this is really important. Well, it all comes down to the recruitment process. So how do we recruit a high-level virtual assistant? Well, I use website onlinejobs.ph. The reason for that is that there's more flexibility in the application process. When you post a job application, you can use links and set application forms, so you can take the application off of the platform. A lot of the other platforms out there will keep you within their existing platform, which means that analysing the data and using your vetting process is more challenging. That's why we use onlinejobs.ph. Now it costs $60 a month, but you can just pay it once and then cancel it. Or I think you might, even if you sign up for it, you might get a free trial, so you can do it in the free trial. But we just sign up and cancel whenever we're doing recruitment runs. There's no point keeping the subscription going unless you're constantly recruiting people like an agency. So what happens when you put, what do most people do? Put a general administrator role. That's generally what comes in. Or as I always say, the first role to recruit is the PVA, personal virtual assistant, or personal assistant, but in a remote environment. And the issue is that it's quite generalised, and there's not a huge level of person specification that you need. So there's not many people that aren't going to qualify for that type of job, because it's generally lower level work that with the option to kind of grow. So what you end up finding, I've put applications out there before, I've had over 1,000 applicants, and if you do that, how do you wean through that volume? So you need to have a process. So we have a very simple process. I mean, there's a couple of ways you can do this. I use a paid version of Asana, so I use Asana Forms, and so as my application form, so people can fill stuff in. I can zap stuff into Google Sheet, so all the results can be put into a spreadsheet format. Really, really important. But the application form, I'll share this in the resources as well that I use. It's really generalised stuff. And what you're trying to do is wean people out that aren't suitable. So you know what your pay grade is. You know the hours you want them to work, whether it's UK based or whether it's not. You want to check out their written skills in English. So you get them to do some test typing, see how quick they can type. These types of things, some basic psychometric testing. And this is all generalised stuff when you recruit a virtual assistant. If you typed into Google, you'd get a list of things to ask to wean out people that aren't suitable. You want to make sure they've got decent hardware as well in terms of computing equipment, not too old, those types of things. If they fail on any of these when they put the responses down, you just instantly reject them. But you don't have to reject them as a standard. When you go through the spreadsheet, you can sort it and filter it based on the answers if you've put them as closed responses. And anybody that doesn't meet the criteria, you can create a zap that sends them a mail merge email to say, sorry, you've been rejected from the application. And you can make it very automated in that regard, so everybody's getting kept in the loop, and you can cull it down really quickly. The other thing you want to do, if it's more role specific, you want to have maybe five or six questions in there as well, which are very linked to the role. So if you're bringing in a project manager, for example, you're going to want to know about how they think, how they process, how they prioritise, how organised they are. So you want to ask questions, open questions that will give them the ability to respond in an open fashion, and that will then mean that everybody that kind of meets the criteria, you can whittle through the people that have given decent answers, and if anybody doesn't sound right, you just reject them. Simple as. It's quite a quick process. It sounds long, but it's not if you put the right level of automation into place. The next stage, you'll probably take on you want to really kind of get to maybe 20 applicants, no more than that you take through to the next stage. So keep tightening up the criteria of your responses to get them to maybe 20 applications that come through out of the hundreds or thousands that you've got coming in. And then when you go to that stage, you give them a test task, which is relevant to the job. So, what we used to do in systems outsourcing is we would get them to create an operations manual from a video, which we gave video instructions to do. What it would do is we would test their ability to follow instruction, their attention to detail, their grammatical skills, and we would have some very basic way of assessing their workmanship. So you could do spell check it and stuff like that, just to make sure that they haven't made any basic errors. And you'd look at how the layout is, how attention to detail, to make sure it looks and it's formatted nice and correctly, because some people just do it really quickly rather than putting care and attention into things. So having a test task related to what you're asking them to do in the role is so valuable. And I had a property sourcing position that just recruited for, and the test task I had was to source some properties. So to give me a short list of properties based on the criteria I give them, and then you can see very quickly on how they've presented that data, and how much effort they put into it, on how much they want that job. So that enabled me to clear out so many applicants, because so many people would just do it as quickly as they possibly could to try and get through to the next stage, where there's a couple of applicants who got through to the final who took the time and care and attention to present something to be proud of, rather than it's just very, very basic. So that's stage 2. Now the final stage is a video interview. Now you don't do a video interview yourself, because that's not time efficient for you. You've got to try and get this process in place so somebody else can do it for you. And these applications are generally, these recruitment drives are done solely by my VA. Okay, anything that they're not 100% sure of how something would be assessed, they raise it to me and I pass my eyes over and give my opinion. But this can be fully outsourced to somebody else to do for you, which is where the magic happens. So the video interview, you will record a very basic video interview with the questions that you want to ask these people. And you're not going to do it in video conferencing. You're going to record yourself asking these questions in a generalized fashion. But the questions, again, link them to the role. So these are where you're giving open questions. You're giving them the ability to respond in their own voice, so you can see how much thought they've given into it. But the key thing is you're not putting them on the spot in a video conferencing environment, of which I've seen before. Quite often you can be bringing people in an exceptional candidate, but they're just not comfortable in that first social interaction, and they need to have that confidence to build up. So by taking that out and giving them the opportunity to watch your video multiple times, think through, plan how they're going to ask, and then send you a video back within, you might say it has to be less than 5 minutes. That's what we always do. So you don't take ages to go through them. So when you watch them in double speed, it's only a couple of minutes it takes to go through a video interview, which is really, really powerful. But it will also enable your candidates to give them the best opportunity to make sure you're not rejecting someone who would be really, really suitable for the role. But you know what? They just got a bit nervous when they met you for the first time. Pretty daunting for a remote worker in the Philippines, and generally they're quite a reserved culture, a passive culture. They hate conflict, so sometimes you have to build them up confidence-wise to get the best out of them. So by putting them in a situation that's quite stressful for them, you might miss out on some great talent out there. So that's why we do it this way. And then you can go through these 5-minute videos really, really quickly. But because you've asked open questions that are linked to the role, you can assess whether they've got the right mindset or they're approaching things the right way and how good a fit they're going to be for the role. So really, really, really important stuff here. And again, once you've done the video recording once, for general admin, it will apply for every time we bring in a new general administrator. Quite often we'll bring people in on a general admin basis, and then as we get to learn and develop them as people, we'll move them into more specialist roles. So we try and recruit and promote people within our existing team, and new blood that comes in will come in at the bottom and have to work their way up. I think that's quite a lot, and you're also rewarding people that have been loyal to you. So we'll always exhaust our existing workforce before we bring somebody in outside. I think that's the right way to do it. So you can make this fully automated, just bring general administrations people in, but you can make it slightly geared towards a specific role if that's where you want to evolve them into in the future. So I hope you found this useful. So just to summarise, first step is, can you afford a VA? So work out your calculations, look at your profit margins, look at the income based on your property, look at revenue per head. Is it at the right level it needs to be for you to justify the recruitment of a VA? And the calculator I'll share with you will enable you to work out how many hours you can afford on per week, per monthly basis when you bring someone in, to not overstretch yourself. So I will share that with you very shortly. The next stage is, try and recruit on a platform like onlinejobs.ph. Morning, because it will give you the opportunity to take your application process off of the platform, and it's really important so that you can automate and make this process as quickly as possible. If you did it all manually through some of the platforms, it can take hours and hours and hours and hours of time, and some of the platforms aren't the most user friendly. So just my advice there. So create an online application form. A Google form, free to use, would suffice, that syncs with a Google Sheet. You need this data of this high level closed questioning predominantly. 75-80% of it is closed questions where you can very easily whittle out people who aren't suitable for the position based on what pay you're prepared to pay, number of hours, if they've got another job, their hardware, some basic psychometric testing, some test type, how quickly they type, speed, how many grammatical errors, these types of things you can do, which can wean out so many people. So kind of 75 to 80% should be closed questions, and then you probably maybe 5 questions that are specific to the role, so you can see how they would process that information. But the aim here is to get those applications down to 20. Okay, the 20 will then take through to a test task. If you are feeling super generous, and I recommend you do this at some point, is pay them to do the task, to give them a little bit extra incentive to spend the time to do it. not essential, not necessary, depending on how long the task is going to take. But you can also, there's to counteract that. I've done it both ways. You can also sometimes not paying them makes them hungrier for the work, rather than paying them. But there's pros and cons to doing it both ways. I have done both, and I continue to do it both. But I normally base it on how long the job will take, on whether the test task will take, whether I pay them or not to do the test task. Then once you've got the test task results coming through, obviously assess the deliverable. If possible, try and make it automated. If not, you can spend an hour going through these applications, and all you're looking for is basically glaring mistakes, or really stuff that just shows a lack of care and attention, or the quality of the result. But you'll be able to work that out pretty quickly and wean them out. You want to aim to take 5 of them through to video interview, and that's the stage where you do a video interview questioning that you do as a pre-recorded video, and get them to respond in no more than 5 minutes. But they send the video back to you and give them a deadline, maybe 24 hours to respond. And that way they've got sufficient time to plan, to really listen to your questioning, think through the answering. And I had somebody who responded, who you could see had made loads of notes, and they were responding, and they were really, really careful. You could see they'd done multiple takes. And that's the type of candidate who I want, who's going to take the care and attention to try and present themselves in the best possible light. They put a shirt and a tie on. These are things that just said a lot about the person. You can see then their surroundings and everything to ensure that there's a good fit for your business. Because make no qualms about this, and I've had many poor recruitment decisions over the years. Fortunately, I'm pretty good at it now, so I don't get that so much anymore. But it's very disruptive bringing somebody in, having to let them go, recruit again, train them up. No matter how good your systems and processes are, there's always that transitional and onboarding phase. And however you slice and dice it, it will take time. And might not take your time if you're fully systemized. It'll take time of your team away from doing the kind of high-level income-generating stuff that you want them to do in their business. So it's really important to kind of put this in place. So I hope that's really helped and found it useful. I will put a load of resources in the free section on this. So the VA calculator, how can you afford a VA calculator? I'll also put an example application form. I'll put example interview questions that I ask, all in there, so you can share and not share, so you can go through it and use it. Hopefully help you in your journey of bringing in super high level virtual assistants. But you get this right, you can build a really exceptional team around you that will take you to the next level. And I always remember famous Bill Gates quote, and his objective is solely to be the dumbest person in the ballroom, to bring the best people in around you, let them grow and scale your business. You create the vision and the direction that they pull in. So really, really key quote to end you on there. So as always, any questions, just fire them in. I'll respond to every comment. It's a bigger topic. I will do a vlog episode and I'll tag you in. So that's my guarantee to you. If you think this is really good value to anybody, please tag them in or share this. Give it a like to try and get the engagement going a bit further. It'd be much appreciated. If it's on a different channel, subscribe to it to ensure you get kept up to date. I will be creating unique content for each channel in the future, so it would make sense if you can. If you like what I do, then follow me on the other platforms as well. And as always, if this stuff is annoying or so irrelevant to you, just either unfollow, unsubscribe, or unfriend me, and then it won't bother you anymore in the future. No hard feelings. I want people really who find it useful to see it. So name of the game. So as always, stay positive, stay happy, and I'll see you in the next episode.